All right, in this section, we're going to really quickly go over Assetviewer, which is the simple viewing tool that Gamebryo ships with so that you can take a look at NIF files and kind of debug what's going on inside of a NIF file. So the easiest way to get to Assetviewer is to just double click on any NIF file. You can also get to it through Max and Maya. We've got a quick launch for Assetviewer. As well, we can find the application itself if we go into the emergent folder. We go to Tools. It's right here called Assetviewer. And we can go into the application directory and VC8 or VC90, and there's the actual executable. So let me double click on this. This brings up the main Assetviewer window. We've got a rendering window here. Over here, we've got the scene graph tree, which displays basically how the NIF file itself, or how the data is split out. This window over here shows general performance stats. And this is a scene graph list here, which just basically shows this same scene graph tree in a list. It's useful if you've got a whole bunch of things in a NIF file and you want to select one thing by name. That's an easy way to do it. Okay, so we can load up a file here. We can go open file. We can add more than one NIF file, so we can look at two NIF files at the same time. You'll notice there is no save NIF file, and there's a good reason for this because you can't modify NIF files inside of Assetviewer. It is purely for debugging and viewing your assets. You cannot modify your assets inside of Assetviewer. Okay, so let's load up, say, the skeleton. And so we have our main rendering window. It's telling us what camera it's using, which is our default camera. If we have more than one camera in the scene, we can swap between them with these buttons. In the scene, we don't. These buttons over here are for navigating. This first one is actually for selecting. It'll show us the bounds of the object right here, and it'll show us what object we have selected right over here. This guy here is going to scroll back and forth. This rotate button right here is going to rotate around the selected object. So if I move my mouse, we can see we're rotating around the skeleton guy here. Whereas this rotate button is going to rotate around the current camera. So now we're rotating around my view. And this button, along with the WASD keys, is very useful for navigating a scene, whereas this button is very useful for navigating around an object. And this little guy right here obviously zooms in and out. Let's see, already went over these buttons. This will swap cameras. This will zoom extents of the current camera so that it tries to grab whatever you've got selected. This will view things in wireframe, so we can see the wireframe mode here. And if we have any AVBs in the scene, this button here will view those. So those are for bounding volumes, which there is no bounding volumes on this guy. This reloads shaders. These buttons will show different LODs, which there's no LODs in this scene either. And if we had animations, this button would play them. Let's load up a file that has an animation. We've got this particle fire, and it's giving me one of those warnings that most artists don't listen to. Okay, so then we can hit play here, and this shows the animation. We can also stop the animation or pause the animation. As well, there's some options in here that are useful. Animation options. We can slow down our playback rate here. So if we want to slow this down to, say, 30%, now when we hit play, we've got a nice slower playback. As well, there's a better animation playback. So that is in View, under Toolbars, Animation Controls. This has a little bit better playback controls here, so we can, again, kind of get to the time thing easier. We can set whether it's going to play the animation and then just continue playing forward, or whether it's going to loop that animation. And that's basically the gist on most of the panels inside of Assetviewer. Again, it's just for debugging and taking a look at assets. So we can go into any asset here by exploring into the asset viewer, the scene graph display. And we can see how many nodes we have. These little gray circles are nodes, basically. And the little red triangles are the actual mesh objects themselves, which usually hang underneath a node. So we can explore in here, and we can double-click on any one of these guys. And that will bring up any properties that node or that this piece of leaf geometry has. So we can see this is a particle system. We can see how many particles it has. We can see what its local scale is, what its bounds are right here, any kind of transformations it might have, and any kind of particular data that it has attached to it. We can also double click on usually any one of these and get some more in-depth information about that particular piece of data that's on it. And that's the gist of Assetviewer. It's really mainly for debugging and taking a look at assets that you've exported.